Hi, my name is Tricia Sinclair, and welcome to my session, OmniChannel Engagement Hub Behind the Scenes. This is going to be a very intense session where we literally go through and set up OmniChannel in less than 45 minutes. So there's going to be a lot, so bear with me. I might talk a bit fast. I'd love to thank our sponsors, ScriptRunner, DQ Global, Proximo 3, RedSpire, Agilysys, and Hitachi Solutions. Without you, we would not be able to get this event on, and I'd especially like to thank Mark Christie and Ian Connolly for even dreaming about Scottish Summit and making it the event that it is today. Now, a little bit about myself. My name is Tricia Sinclair. I'm from Avanade, and I'm a customer service lead. So basically, I talk about customer service all the time, and I love it. Now, I do blog a lot about, OmniChannel, D365 customer service, and Azure DevOps. So please feel free to follow my blog or connect with me. If you've got any questions during the session, about the session, then also I've put my social information there, my Twitter and my LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect with me, as I mentioned, and ask any questions there as well. Okay. Now, the scenario that I've got for today's session, because, we're going to be setting up Omni, so we kind of need something to be talking about, is we're going to basically report a missing delivery. When we report that missing delivery, we're going to be using web chat because, of course, we're doing a lot of online shopping, and sometimes deliveries go missing. You don't always have a consistent experience when you're actually dealing with a lot of these retailers. So we're going to show how we can actually build something that will deliver a consistent experience to a customer and enable that agent to do that. Okay, and then we're going to be using D365 customer service to help the agent address the question using information that's available within customer service before completing that inquiry and allowing them to receive feedback to improve future interactions. Then finally, we're going to receive some coaching that's going to help that agent to manage their workload and effectiveness. So we're going to basically be talking about all of this in this 45-minute session. As you can see, talking a bit fast because it's a lot. So let's go through with our to-do list. We're going to basically be talking about the base configuration, where we're going to be creating queues and assigning user roles. We're going to be doing a chat configuration where we're going to be creating a chat workstream and widget, including the PreChat questionnaire and routing as well. And before going into the session and application tab template, and then creating agent scripts, quick replies, slugs, and macros. If you don't know what these are, don't worry, I will tell you. Then we're going to mix it all together. Then we're going to test it after crossing all our fingers and our toes. And then I really want to show the new voice channel experience, especially the setup of it. The first run experience is amazing. I really want to share that with you. So I've put that on at the end, and I really hope that you enjoy seeing it the first time, the same that I did. Okay, so with all intents and purposes, let us, jump in. Okay, so what we're going to do is start out with setting up users and queues. Here we've got the users already assigned to the relevant organization. And as you can see here, we've gone into manage the users to kind of see what roles they've got. And the OmniChannel users only shows one, and that's because in order to be considered an OmniChannel user, you must have the OmniChannel's admin role, OmniChannel supervisor role rather, or the OmniChannel agent role. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign the necessary roles to the supervisor, and that would be the basic role, the app profile user role, or admin role, depending on what you want them to do. And there's a lot more information about the different types of roles available on the Docs website. So please let me know if you'd like me to just provide that link to you. The productivity tools role, which basically allows you to see the agent scripts and knowledge articles on the right. And also one thing I forgot whilst I was recording this, which is the customer service representative role. So these are the types of roles, or these are the roles that you need to assign based on what you'd want the agent to do. You'll either have the agent role or the supervisor role. So I'm doing the same thing for the agent. App profile, basic we're going to have productivity tools user and OmniChannel agent as opposed to OmniChannel supervisor in this instance. And then we're also going to come back and provide access, sorry, not playbook, productivity users. Yes, productivity tools user. Yeah, and then we're going to save this, and then we're going to update it back because we actually do also need customer service representative because we're going to be using the case entity in my scenario. Once we've actually assigned the roles, what we're going to be able to see is that in the OmniChannel list, you'll see these two additional users displayed there. Okay, so we're going to go to manage roles and just select the one thing that I was missing, which is customer service representative. So we're going to click on OK and change the list to be OmniChannel users. And now you can actually see that these users are fully enabled for OmniChannel. So if you want to check if someone is going to be able to use OmniChannel, this is the list to check. The next thing when you're setting up users is basically ensuring that they have a capacity set. When you're first setting up a user, what you might notice is that the capacity is null. So there is a script that loads on the onload of the form that will set the default capacity to 100, and it will also set the default presence to available, but you've got to open that form first. The alternative thing is you can actually bulk update them, but you must have a value in that field, capacity and the default present. Now, what the capacity actually means is how OmniChannel works is each channel has a set capacity assigned. So for example, when you're initiating a chat, that chat could take 30, say let's call it credits or capacity points out of an available capacity of like 150. So if you have, say, 10 chats ongoing, then that will bring your capacity taken to 100, which means that you will not get any more chats assigned to you, etc. So it just basically reduces the capacity that you have available to you each time you've got a channel, a chat or a channel conversation assigned to you. And then, of course, with the default presence, it's important to know that you can actually have default custom presences, so you can assign your own custom presence. Then, once we've actually created the users, the next thing that we want to do is actually create some queues. So we're going to basically go into the environment itself. And then we're going to create queues. Now these queues are actually very, very similar to the standard queues that you create in customer service. Actually, they are the same. If you go into customer service, you will be able to see these queues as well. But there will be a flag called OmniChannel enabled queue. So we're going to create 2 queues for the sake of my scenario. One being complaint management, and we'll have the priority set. The operating hours is still in preview, but what this will do is it will show a message just to basically say that this department is not currently available, and you will actually be able to tweak the message shown here in the messaging tab when we configure the chat work stream. So we'll be able to show that. But we're going to basically just save that queue and create the other queue, which will be my order management queue. Now in this order management queue, which is the one that we really will be using for my scenario, we're going to, we will be using for my scenario. We're just going to make sure that the necessary agents are included in each queue, and also that we've got, so we've got order management, and we've ensured that it says messaging as opposed to entity in terms of the queue type, and that is because you can have a queue that's set up only for entity routing, and we want it to be for messaging, which is any of the messaging channels like Twitter, social media, etc. So once we've actually done that, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the work stream. Now, when you create or set up OmniChannel, the work streams and the channels are actually created by default, but only one. If you need to create another one, you're gonna have to do it manually, and it's always advisable to create the work stream first, and I'll show you why. So we've got the work stream here. As I mentioned, the capacity, the default capacity will be set to 30. Now the work distribution mode being push or pick is basically, do you want the agent to pick from the list, or do you want it to be automatically assigned? So we're going to push it to them, so it's going to automatically be assigned. And then if you have the allowed presence, you just need to basically ensure that you're happy with the chat or the conversation to be assigned based on any of the presences that's set there. So if you've got like a customized presence saying, you know, on break, you might not want that, but if you have another one that says learning, that might be an option to have chat automatically assigned there. Now in the work stream, of course, you've got your additional tabs, you know, your routing rules, your skills attachment rules, and your context variables, which at the moment is blank. What we're now going to do is we're going to basically go and create a chat widget, and that chat widget is going to link to that work stream that we created earlier. Now by default, because my language is obviously English, it's going to set that language. However, you can change the language to any of the allowed languages supported by OmniChannel. You can also change the display name for the agent. So if you want it to be the agent's nickname, first name, etc., to kind of change the the personality of the chat, that's totally fine. Now in the conversation mode, you've got live chat and you've also got persistent chat, which basically allows the type of chat to be configured. So at the end of the chat, do you want that chat to be persisted? Do you want the agent or the customer to actually see what was previously said in the previous chat, or do you want the chat to start all over again? So we're going to basically say live chat, which means it's a new chat every time. And also we have proactive chat, which are not enabling. Now we mentioned the messaging, the automated messaging. This is where we can actually change some of the standard messaging that goes out to the customer. And of course, what we're going to do now is enable the survey. So we want to turn on the pre-chat, because we're now going to create some pre-chat questions that's actually linked to this chat widget. There are 3 questions that I would like to ask. The first being name. Now, the reason I always have name is because the name field is actually special. Putting name in the question name will automatically prompt Omni to look inside of Dataverse and see if there is an existing contact or account with that name. And if there is, it will then be displayed in the conversation. The next thing that I would like to add is the reason for the chat. Now, the reason for the chat, I'm going to have as an option set. There are different types of pre-chat question types that you can have. Obviously text, a list, a multi-line, which is where you can actually ask for more details, and also a checkbox. So here, because I'm basically putting it in as a option set, I'm setting it, I'm separating each option by a semicolon. And it's important to remember these values, because we're going to be using this later on when we actually route the chat through to the relevant queue. And we're also specifying that this is mandatory, which means that the customer has to populate this in order to initiate the chat. The next thing is, for GDPR purposes, I like to include this as well, which is consent, because we're going to be saving details about the contact, about the customer into our system. So we want them to be aware, and we want them to sign on to this. And if they don't sign on to this, then to be honest, we're not going to be able to initiate this chat. So I'm going to put the question type, the question details here. You can also include a URL. and then you can put the question type, which is the user consent, which is going to then show as a checkbox. And this will also be mandatory. So when I save and close this, what's going to happen is really the context variables inside the work stream that we created earlier will be populated. You can see here as well, we've got a post-chat conversation survey. This actually links to a customer voice survey that you can already, have prepared. And we're going to change the design in terms of how it looks. So the only thing I'm going to change is really the color. I'm going to set it to pink. Now you can specify the location of the widget. Do you want it to be visible only in certain IP ranges, certain domains? Do you want to see the location of the visitor? You'll need a Google or a Bing. I think it's Bing or now Azure geocode API key. And then in the conversation options, it's really great. You can actually enable the call options, and without any code, you can escalate the chat to a voice or a video. But we're not going to do that in this instance. We're going to go back to the work stream and just check on the context variables. As you can see here that they've all been created. Now it is entirely possible to create your own custom context variables, which is really useful for example, if you are using a portal or a custom web page and you want to pass information from that web page through to OmniChannel. That's where you would do that, creating your custom context variables. And I do have a blog post showing how to do that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new routing rule. Now these routing rules are quite similar to the routing rules that we create when we're using standard customer service. And in the context variables, because of course we created the pre-chat question, which has now created the context variables, what we can do is we can leverage the values that we had put in the pre-chat list. So remember what I said, remember these values. This is why, because it needs to be the exact value, otherwise it will not work. And I'll show you because I actually made this mistake as well during my recording. So in the context variable for this, I want to have the chat reason for my order management set to order enquiry, but I put order management. So what would happen when I'm testing is that it's not going to go to this queue. It's going to go to the default queue that I created earlier. And then also, I just want to show what other information you can use in routing rules. You can have information that's coming in from the live chat. You can have information that's associated to the contact. So remember when I mentioned the name identifies that contact for you. And if the contact has any particular information, for example, if they might have a particular SLA, if they might be a VIP customer, you might want to route them to a different queue, and you can do all of that here. Now I have not shown the skills-based routing, but that also is entirely possible, and it uses a lot of the same components that you also use in project operations and also field service. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the chat widget snippet that was saved when we created the chat widget, and I'm going to just pop this into a quick and dirty HTML web page that I'm just going to knock up quickly. Just this is literally just to test it. I'm not going to be putting it into a portal because of the time that we've got. So I'm just going to close this off, and then when we save it, we'll be able to just open this web page and then test the chat button. There are a couple of tests that I want to make sure that's happening. Firstly, that the chat button is actually enabled. And then secondly, that I've got the pre-chat questions showing. And then thirdly, that is routing to the right queue. And then that I'm even actually getting the notification. So there are a couple of things I really just want to test on the outset. So here we've got the chat snippet, and I'm going to just open the web page. And let's see if the first test is successful. And it is. So we've got the lovely pink icon for the chat button that we created earlier. And we do have the second test ready, which is providing the name, the how can we help, the GDPRs. You can see that if we click on submit without populating anything, it will not work. Now, in order for me to properly test this, I now need to go into the agent experience. So I'm just gonna like go into the agent experience. And when I'm going into the agent experience, what it's going to do, it's going to authenticate me. So it's going to go through a series of checks, ensuring that firstly, do I have a license? Secondly, am I authorized to access this module? And then thirdly, am I even authorized to access this tenant? There are a couple of checks that it actually does. And then it will display, also does it have a default presence, and also do I have capacity? So these are the things that it's checking. And once it's finished checking, what you'll see is the green or the default presence that has been set for that agent available at the top right. There were some instances where this was not showing, and if that does happen to you, I've also got a blog that shows how to fix that. So with the default presence set to green, that's great, that's available. I'm now just gonna set my name. Now I do already have a contact with my name, Tricia, in the system, so it should find me. And I've initiated that. You can see it says an agent will be with you in a moment. You can change that as well, by the way. That is one of the messages that you can change. And as you can see, it's come through with a notification with my name, and I am actually associated to the chat. So it has found me as a contact. It has actually found and routed me to the default messaging queue, which is the incorrect queue. Because remember I mentioned before that the queue did not match the name of the PreChat question. The routing rule did not match in the question that I had, the PreChat question. So we're gonna fix that. But in all intents and purposes, we are successful in our initial tests. And what I now need to do is basically just go back to the work stream and just make that one tiny tweak to change it from order management to order enquiry, which means the next time that we run this, it should now go to the correct queue, which is order management. So what we've now done is we've set up our users and we've set up our queues, and we've created our work stream and our chat widget. What we now want to do is set up a new session. And what a session does is for each conversation or each channel will have like a different session, which will kind of tailor what's shown on the screen in terms of the anchor tab, which is that tab that never changes and you can't get rid of it because it basically is the core. It also has like the agent scripts that are available for that session, and it also has the application tabs that are also available for that session as well. So I'm just going to create a custom chat session because one will be created for you, but we can create our own. And the type that we're going to have is generic. Now, if you're using entity routing, then you can actually have the type as entity and then specify which entity that should be associated, which entity this session should be associated to. But here we're going to basically have it as a generic session, and that means it needs to be associated and linked to a work stream, to a channel. And then the title, as you can see, I'm basically putting in swirly brackets, customer name. And that's because what we have in the system are slugs. And slugs are basically preset field values or preset values or syntaxes that you can actually use to pull information into different fields. It's like a placeholder field. Customer name being one of them. And then once we've saved that session, what I need to now do is link it to my work stream, which then links it to that chat widget. So we're just going to go and select the chat session. Great. And what will happen now is when I actually go and launch the chat next time, any application tabs or agent scripts that I've got associated to that session will now be available. It's important to note that the default sessions are not amendable, so you've got to create your own if you need to. The next thing as well is we've got the concept of the app profile manager. Now the app profile manager, what I'm doing, so I'm just checking the environment, because sometimes I do this in the wrong environment and that's really naughty. So I just need to make sure that it's the right environment. So in the application profile manager, the app profile manager, this is where we can set the different experiences based on the agent. So like an agent might just be, you know, there for voice. They might actually need access to the different messaging channels. They might not need call scripts. They might actually need, so you can tailor this experience. Right, so we're going to amend the out-of-the-box default template, just assign users to that, so we force them to see this experience when they're using chat. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to enable the productivity pane. This is where you've got to enable the productivity pane. If you don't enable it here, you will not see that pane. So if you remember before when we tested, you didn't see anything on the right, which means that you're not going to be able to see knowledge articles. You're not going to be able to see Smart Assist or you know, the smart case suggestions. So you'll need to enable this here. The next thing that we're going to do is, because what we're going to do now is actually start creating some agent scripts. And in our agent script, there's one thing that I want to display or want to show, which is a macro. And what a macro is, it's a shortcut for an agent to be able to do something that they would otherwise need to take several steps to do. So in my scenario, for example, I might want to create a new order and pre-populate that order with information that's already known to me, that's already been provided by the customer. And because the information has already been provided by the customer, I will be able to take that information using slugs, remember the placeholders that I showed earlier, and populate some of the fields. So it basically reduces the time that the agent has to spend populating fields and getting things set up. And there's so many things that you can do in a macro, including triggering flows, which is actually perfect for systems that might be off on-prem, because now you can also trigger, you know, RPA flows as well, or desktop flows. Okay. So what we're doing here is we're setting the name. So you need the schema name of the field that we're setting, and I'm going to hard code this value here. But remember, you don't have to hard code it. And I'm going to show you how we can use the slugs here. The other one that we're going to do is setting the customer value. So in an order, you've got the customer field and the potential customer field, which are tied. What we're going to do is we're going to show how we can set that lookup value, because it's not the norm. What we have to do is set the ID, the name field, and the logical name field. So when we set the ID field, we're going to be using the customer ID slug. And this basically gets the customer ID of the associated linked customer. We're going to set the customer ID name, which is going to give me the name field of the name of the customer that was found in the for the session. And the third thing that we're going to set is the logical name, because bear in mind, it could have been an account or it could have been a contact. So it's going to basically tell us which one when we set the customer ID logical name. Okay, and what this will do is this is going to pre-populate that field. Now you can pre-populate other things like obviously your option set. You can also have other things set like looking into using an OData query to get information that is associated to that contact. So for example, if I wanted to see if the contact was a VIP customer and set that field, I could also do that. So once we've saved that macro, we're going to create an agent script. Now the agent script is really useful because it's kind of like guiding that agent with what they can say to the customer, and basically providing one consistent voice across all your agents, so they get the customer gets a unified and seamless experience. Now with the order script that I'm creating here, which is agent script, called order script, I'm gonna basically have two steps. Now, what the steps are is which order will these come in, so different guidance in terms of order. And for me, the first thing I want my agents to kind of figure out is what exactly is the issue with the order. So I've come through to order management. Okay, so we know that you have a problem with your order, but what exactly is the problem with your order? So we're going to prompt the agents to find and identify that. It could be missing items, it could be a missed delivery, it could be a late delivery, you know, we might actually have different agent scripts that are triggered off the back of that. But we're going to basically have a macro that basically allows us to create a new order to just show how that could actually work, right? So the first one is basically text. The next one is basically where we're going to trigger that macro. And bear in mind, I could have also triggered a different script. So you might want a script for a missed delivery. You might have a script for late delivery because you might have a different things that you need to ask or find out or do, and that's totally fine. So in this macro, we're going to find the macro that we created earlier and just save that, right? Now against this agent script, now that we've created it, we now need to assign it to the session. And remember the session that we created earlier for Scottish Summit? We're going to find that, and now we're going to go to the agent scripts tab and add that agent script. Okay. Now when we add that agent script, the next thing that we want to do is we want the agent script to be shown when the chat reason is order management. And for this, we're going to set that default agent script experience, or set that experience. So here you can see that we can have the different conditions, and we're just going to basically set chat reason to be equal to order enquiry. We learned my lesson from the first one. Cool. And I did not learn my lesson in terms of the braces, because there's some instances where the braces are needed and some instances where they are not. And in this instance, it's not needed. So we're going to basically go and set if it's true. We're going to go to customer service and set the default agent script to be order script. So if it's not, then there will not be an order script. There will not be an agent script, but if it is, great, they'll see that. So in this instance, you can help the agents to just know what they need to say. And this is really useful for new agents as well, because it gives them guidance and it gives them a guide, like a guardrail of what to say. So let's put it all together and just see what we've got. So I'm in the agent experience. We're going to close this chat. We're going to initiate a new chat. We've got the pre-chat questions as we saw from earlier. I'm going to submit this now. And remember, previously we did not have the queue routed to the correct one, but we did change that. So now we should have the queue routed to the correct. We should now have the chat routed to the correct queue. And in some instances, what happens is it will automatically assign it to the agent, and depending on what's happening on the laptop, which is in my instance, my laptop, it's assigned it. And if I refresh, I'll be able to see that. So I'm just going to basically open this chat here. And when I open the chat, what I want to do is actually check the queue, just to, as I mentioned, see if that's, yep, so that is now going to the correct order management queue. You can see it's still being assigned to myself, and also we've now got the agent scripts and the productivity pane being shown on the right. I can also select a case. So for example, if the contact is calling about or chatting about a case that's previously been talked about before, you can select that case here. And case also is a special field for PreChat, and it will automatically identify that case. But here you've got the text for the agent script, and if I click on resend order, that is going to open a new tab and allow me to see, that the name has been pre-populated, the customer and the potential customer has been pre-populated with the information that I had put in the macro. So this really shows how quick and easy it was to kind of get a lot of things configured and set up inside of the inside of OmniChannel. But one last thing, which I forgot to do actually, but I really do want to show, I can download that chat transcript, and it will show an HTML page with the chat transcript that the customer can actually save to their records. If I had enabled email, that would also be there as well. Now that we've set up the chat and we've tested that, the next thing I want to show is how we're able to kind of coach our agents and actually ensure that they're actually doing being effective. And that's with the use of some dashboards that are actually available by default, and we don't need to do anything else. They are just there. They are going to be available. And you'll notice that we have two tabs: the OmniChannel Ongoing Conversations dashboard, which really just shows the list of conversations that are currently active within your organization, and which agents they're assigned to, if they are assigned, and you can actually assign them if you can, or if you need to. And also the OmniChannel Intraday Insights dashboard, which gives you both the overall standard KPIs and also more detailed insights per agent. So if we actually look at intraday, you'll be able to see like the different work streams and the status of the conversations that were assigned to them for the day, and then also how many conversations are actually exceeding the wrap-up, like a 5-minute wrap-up time, which is set. And then also what's the existing availability of your agents, the handle time. So these are standard KPIs that you would actually have for a call center, and they are just available out of the box. You'll also be able to see the agent insights, which is actually more detailed more for the agent, so to speak. Okay, so for example, you can see that I'm available or offline. I can actually change my status. So if someone you notice is away from their desk and they're receiving phone calls, you might actually, as a supervisor, want to change that. So you can change that there. You can also see the sentiment for the ongoing conversations from here as well as a supervisor, and also drill in to actually get more insights into that agent. Of course, I can actually change my picture to have that there as well, and also see more details of that peek through that we had earlier, and then see the status of the agent throughout the day. Okay, which queues I'm assigned to, what's my duration in terms of logged on, logged off, how much time am I available versus busy, and so it's really useful to kind of allow me to see the effectiveness of the agent. So one of the things that's actually becoming available, or will be available in the I think the second half of this year, is the new voice channel. Now there is a blog post that I've done that actually shows the voice channel in all its glory. So I'm not going to be repeating that. Please go and have a look at my blog. That will show the voice channel and the interaction that it also has with Power Virtual Agent. It's amazing. But what about how to set it up? Setting it up is extremely easy. We just spent 38 minutes setting up the chat channel for OmniChannel. But there are changes afoot that actually will make the first run experience, the first time that you set up both chat and voice, extremely easy. You can do it within 5 minutes. And how you do it is, let's just click on this button here to actually start the video, because I've recorded this in a video. So if I actually click on the setup voice demo, what this is actually going to do is set up the work stream, acquire the phone number, get the voice channel, get the actual routing. It will do all of that for me. So instead of me having to go through all the experience and everything that I just did, that's just done for me. And all I now need to do is click on Open Agent Experience, which will take me to the agent desktop with the number to call that I can actually now dial in and start using voice. How amazing is that? And if you saw, what we had right beside it was start chat demo, which does the same thing. 5 minutes, and you can have chat and also another 5 minutes, and you can have voice. So that's 2 channels in 10 minutes. That's going to be amazing. So what we just saw is basically the new wave of how to set up OmniChannel. And that's going to be, I can't say again, amazing. Thank you so much for coming to my session on OmniChannel Engagement Hub behind the scenes. I hope this was super useful. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them all either now or if you've got them after, then please connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, subscribe to my blog, and you'll find a lot of information, a lot of collateral where I'm actually going through each of these things in detail with their own discrete little videos, which might also help as well. So please feel free to connect with me and let's talk about customer service and omni-channel together.